Alina was just 14 years old, but life had already shaped her into someone older than her years. She lived in a small, broken wooden house with her grandmother on the edge of a noisy town. Every morning, while many children were hurrying to school with neat uniforms and books in hand, Alina walked in the opposite direction, carrying a torn sack over her shoulder. Her path always led her to the town's dump, a wide stretch of waste where smoke rose from burning trash and the air smelled heavy. She did not go there because she wanted to. She went because she had no other choice. Her grandmother, who had taken care of her since she was little, was old and frail. The little pension money was not enough even for food, so Alina collected plastic bottles, cans, and sometimes broken metal parts. She sold them to recyclers for a few coins. Those coins bought rice, soap, and sometimes medicine for her grandmother. Though her life was hard, she never complained loudly. She had learned to smile even when her stomach was empty. On that particular morning, the sun was already hot even though it was still early. Alina's feet were dusty, her clothes faded from too many washes, and her hair tied back in a rough ponytail. She bent down again and again, picking things carefully from the piles of trash. Some children would laugh when they saw her, calling her names. Some shopkeepers nearby would wave her away like a stray dog. Yet Alina held her head high, pretending their words did not sting. Inside, however, she dreamed of a life where she would not have to dig through waste just to survive. While searching that day, something strange caught her attention. She heard a faint sound, soft, weak, and different from the usual noise of crows and flies. She paused, unsure. Maybe it was just a cat hidden in the garbage, she thought. Cats often searched the dump for scraps. But this sound felt different. It was like a small cry, the kind she had only heard when passing mothers holding newborn babies on the street. Her heart began to beat faster. She stepped closer, moving some broken cardboard and torn bags aside. The sound grew clearer. It was not her imagination. It was a cry, but not from a cat or a dog. It was the desperate cry of a baby. Alina froze for a moment. She could not believe her ears. She looked around, but no one else seemed to notice. The workers in the dump were busy, far away, loading trash into carts. She bent down again, her hands trembling as she pushed away more layers of trash. Finally, under a pile of boxes and an old sheet, she saw something that made her breath catch. There, lying helplessly in the filth, was a tiny baby wrapped in a thin, dirty blanket. The baby's little face was red from crying, its tiny fists waving weakly. For a moment, Alina felt like the world around her had gone silent. She stared, unable to move, her mind refusing to accept what her eyes were seeing. "Is this real?" she whispered to herself. Her body moved before her mind could think. She reached down and carefully lifted the baby out of the pile. The infant was light, fragile, and trembling from the cold. The blanket smelled bad, the kind of smell that clung to the dump, but Alina did not care. She held the baby close to her chest, her sack dropping to the ground forgotten. The baby's cries softened slightly as if sensing safety in her arms. Alina's eyes filled with tears. She had always felt poor and powerless, but in that moment, she felt responsible for something greater than herself. A small life depended on her. She looked around again. No mother. No adult searching frantically. No one. The baby had been left there alone. Alina's heart broke at the thought. She whispered softly, "Don't worry, little one. I won't leave you here." With quick steps, she began walking away from the dump. People stared at her as she passed through the streets. A girl in ragged clothes holding a newborn, it was a sight that drew whispers and curious glances. Some women frowned, suspecting her of wrongdoing. Others pointed, asking, "Whose baby is that? Where did she get it?" Alina ignored them all. She tightened her arms around the baby and hurried to the nearest clinic she knew. The small clinic stood at the corner of a busy street, with a faded signboard. She pushed the door open with her shoulder, calling out urgently, "Please! Help! A baby!" The nurses and a doctor rushed forward. Their eyes widened as they saw the infant in her arms. Immediately, they took the child from her gently, laying it on a clean bed and checking its breathing, pulse, and body. One nurse said, "This baby is lucky you found her in time." A little longer and, she did not finish her sentence, but her face showed relief. Alina stood there, her hands still shaking, watching as the baby received care. She felt both relief and fear. Relief that the baby was safe, fear that someone might accuse her of things she had not done. She was just a poor girl, after all. Who would believe her easily? The doctor turned to her and asked, "Where did you find this baby?" "At the dump," Alina answered in a quiet but steady voice. "I heard her crying. I couldn't leave her there." The staff exchanged shocked glances. One nurse muttered, "Unbelievable! Who could do such a thing?" Within minutes, the news spread outside the clinic. A crowd gathered, whispering about the poor girl who saved a baby. Journalists soon arrived, taking pictures and asking questions. Alina felt shy, lowering her eyes. She did not see herself as a hero. She simply thought, anyone should have done the same. What Alina did not know, however, was that her brave act was about to change her life forever. The baby she had rescued was no ordinary child. And Alina herself was not who she thought she was. The truth, hidden for years, was slowly moving toward the light. But for that moment, in the quiet of the clinic, Alina sat on a wooden bench with her hands folded, whispering prayers for the baby's health. She did not ask for money or fame. She only asked for the baby to live. And though she could not see it yet, destiny had just opened a door for her that would lead far beyond the world of scraps and struggles she had always known. The small clinic where Alina had rushed with the baby became unusually busy that day. Nurses hurried across the narrow hallway, bringing warm towels, milk, and medicine for the child she had pulled out of the dump. The baby, now cleaned and wrapped in a soft blanket, looked calmer but still weak. Alina stood silently in the corner, her hands folded in front of her, watching everything with wide eyes. People from the neighborhood started gathering outside the clinic door, whispering about what had happened. Some were curious, some doubtful, and some even suspicious. A young boy peered through the window and asked loudly, "Is it true a girl from the dump found a baby?" Others murmured, "Whose baby is this? How could such a small child end up there?" For Alina, it felt like all eyes were on her. She had lived her whole life mostly unnoticed, carrying scraps in her sack with no one caring. But now, after one strange morning, she was suddenly at the center of everyone's attention. She wasn't sure if it was a blessing or a burden. The doctor finally turned to her and spoke in a calm but serious tone, "You did something very brave, child. You saved a life today. But we must inform the police and child services. A baby left in such a place, it is a crime, and the truth must be found." Alina nodded slowly. She did not want trouble, but she also could not argue. Deep inside, she was still shaking from the shock of finding that little baby among the trash. She whispered softly, "I just couldn't leave her there." Within an hour, 2 police officers arrived. They questioned her carefully. At first, Alina felt nervous. She had always feared policemen, thinking they only caused problems for poor people. But the officers seemed gentle this time. They asked her name, her grandmother's name, and exactly how she had found the baby. She explained everything: the strange cry she had heard, the pile of cardboard she had moved, and the tiny child lying alone. The officers took notes, nodding seriously. One of them said, "If you hadn't gone to the dump this morning, the baby might not have survived." Those words stayed with Alina. She realized the weight of what had happened. Her usual morning trip, something she had done thousands of times before, had turned into the difference between life and death for another human being. As the day went on, the story spread beyond the small town. A local reporter appeared at the clinic, holding a camera. She asked Alina if she could share her picture and words in the newspaper. At first, Alina wanted to say no. She did not like the idea of people talking about her. But then she thought about the baby. Maybe if more people knew, someone would come forward, maybe even the baby's parents. So, shyly, she agreed. The reporter took her picture, a thin girl with tired eyes, standing in faded clothes, holding nothing in her hands. Yet in that moment, the world saw her differently, not as a poor scavenger, but as a girl with courage. By evening, the story was on television too. Young girl rescues abandoned baby from town dump, the announcer said. The cameras showed the clinic, the police, and the baby wrapped in white cloth. They even showed Alina for a few seconds. She was embarrassed, but her grandmother, who had heard the news from neighbors, held her hand and said, "My child, you did something beautiful today. Do not be ashamed of goodness." Still, the whispers around her did not stop. Some people praised her, saying she was brave. Others muttered unkind things. How do we know she didn't have something to do with it? Poor people will do anything. Alina heard those cruel words when she walked home with her grandmother. They stung deeply, but she chose to stay quiet. The next morning, more surprises followed. The police returned to speak with her again. They said the baby was now safe under the care of doctors, but they were still searching for answers. "We do not know who abandoned her," the officer explained. "But the child's features are striking. She may belong to someone important. We will investigate." Alina blinked in confusion. To her, the baby was just small and helpless like any other baby. But the officer's words planted a seed of mystery in her heart. Days passed, and the interest in the story only grew. Strangers came to the dump, trying to see the exact spot where the baby had been found. The press published more pictures, some even calling Alina a hero. She felt strange when she heard the word hero. She was still the same girl who dug through garbage to find coins. Her stomach was still empty most nights. How could she be a hero? Yet, inside the walls of the billionaire family's mansion across the city, something very different was happening. The parents, who had lost their baby months ago to a mysterious kidnapping, were watching the news broadcast. Their hearts raced as they saw the image of the rescued child. The father stood up suddenly, saying, "That's her. That's our baby." The mother wept, clutching her chest. Alina had no idea that her life was now linked to theirs. For her, the days after the rescue felt uncertain. She wondered if she would be blamed, or if the baby would be taken far away and forgotten again. She did not know that powerful people were already moving quietly, preparing to test the truth. In her small home, Alina sat on the floor beside her grandmother, sharing a simple bowl of rice. She whispered, "Grandma, why do I feel like something bigger is coming?" Her grandmother smiled softly, though her eyes held mystery. "Sometimes, child, when you save another life, destiny comes knocking. Just wait and see." And indeed, destiny was on its way. The days after the rescue grew heavier with whispers, but somewhere far beyond Alina's little world, the story was becoming something else entirely. In the city's grandest mansion, a wealthy family sat glued to their television. The father, a tall man with silver streaks in his hair, leaned forward, his eyes wide. The mother, elegant but weary from months of grief, covered her mouth with trembling hands. On the screen, they saw the clinic, the officers, and then a flash of the infant's face. Their hearts nearly stopped. "That's her," the father whispered hoarsely. "That's our baby." Tears streamed down the mother's cheeks as she whispered back, "It can't be, but it is. I know it. That's our little girl." For months, they had lived in agony. Their daughter had been kidnapped when she was only a few weeks old. Despite police searches, rewards, and private investigators, the case had gone cold. Hope had been fading, but now, suddenly, it blazed again. The very child they thought they had lost forever had been found by a girl from the dump. The news quickly turned serious. Detectives reopened the file and rushed to confirm the truth. Doctors took DNA samples from the baby to compare with the billionaire couple. The public did not yet know, but behind closed doors, experts worked day and night. Meanwhile, Alina remained in her small wooden home, unaware of the storm gathering around her. She tried to return to her normal routine, but nothing felt normal anymore. Whenever she walked to the dump, people looked at her differently. Some smiled kindly, offering her small gifts of food. Others still muttered cruel suspicions. And all the while, her thoughts returned again and again to the baby. At night, lying on her mat beside her grandmother, Alina whispered, "Do you think the baby's family will come for her? Do you think she will be loved?" Her grandmother squeezed her hand gently. "Yes, my child. No matter who abandoned her, someone will love her now. You gave her a second chance." Those words gave Alina comfort, though she still carried a quiet unease in her heart. A week later, the clinic staff called her back. She thought it was just to answer more police questions. But when she arrived, she noticed something different. The doctors looked more serious, and there were strangers in suits waiting. One of the officers spoke kindly. "Alina, the baby you found is very special. She belongs to a wealthy family in the city. She was taken from them months ago. They have been searching for her all this time." Alina's mouth fell open in shock. She could hardly imagine such a thing. She had only known the baby as a helpless little soul in the trash. Now she was being told that the child was from a world of riches, palaces, and power. The officer continued, "The family is overjoyed that their daughter is alive. They want to meet the girl who saved her." Alina's hands trembled. She felt both scared and amazed. A family that lived in mansions wanted to see her, a girl who barely had slippers on her feet. Soon after, the meeting was arranged. When Alina entered the large hall of the mansion, she felt like she had stepped into another universe. Shiny floors, golden lights, paintings on every wall. It was overwhelming. She kept her eyes low, her grandmother's words echoing in her heart, "Walk with dignity, no matter where you are." Then she saw them, the baby's parents. The mother rushed forward, holding the infant in her arms, tears running down her face. She looked at Alina with deep gratitude and whispered, "You saved my child. How can I ever thank you?" Alina did not know what to say. She simply bowed her head and replied softly, "I only did what anyone should have done." The father, standing tall, shook her hand firmly. "You are braver than most adults I know," he said. "You gave us back our life." Reporters soon spread the story even wider. "Poor girl rescues billionaire's missing baby." The world was amazed, praising Alina's courage. But amidst all this attention, something else was quietly unfolding, something no one, not even Alina, could have imagined. When investigators dug deeper, they discovered strange details about Alina's own past. Her birth records were unclear. Some documents were missing. Some dates did not match. An old nurse who had once worked at the hospital where Alina was born came forward, her voice heavy with guilt. She revealed that there had been confusion, even mistakes, many years ago. Whispers grew louder. Was Alina herself connected to this family? But Alina knew none of this yet. All she knew was that she had rescued a baby, and now the world was looking at her with eyes of wonder. She did not understand why her heart felt restless, as though life was preparing her for a truth far greater than anything she had known. She walked home that evening, the mansion lights behind her, the city buzzing with the news. Clutching her sack, she whispered to herself, "Why do I feel like this is only the beginning?" Indeed, it was. The secret of her own identity was waiting just around the corner. The truth always has a way of finding light, and for Alina, it came quietly at first, like a whisper at the edge of a storm. After her meeting with the billionaire family, life in her neighborhood changed in ways she could never have predicted. Neighbors who once ignored her now greeted her with smiles. Shopkeepers who used to shoo her away now offered discounts or slipped her a little extra food. But Alina still felt out of place. She was grateful, yes, but deep down she was still the same girl who walked barefoot to the dump with a sack over her shoulder. The baby she had rescued was now safe in the arms of her true family. Alina often thought of her, wondering if the child would grow up happy, never knowing she once lay forgotten in the trash. What Alina didn't know was that her own life story was about to twist in ways she could hardly imagine. At the city hospital, doctors and investigators were working through stacks of records. The baby's DNA test had confirmed beyond doubt that she belonged to the billionaire family. That part was clear. But then, one officer asked a simple question, and what about the girl who found her? Do we know her background? At first, it seemed unnecessary. Alina was just a poor girl, what more was there to know? Yet when her name was typed into the system, the files that came up were thin, incomplete, and confusing. Her birth certificate had mismatched dates. The hospital listed her as born on a certain day, but the village records marked a different date. Even the name of her mother on the file seemed uncertain. This caught the attention of an old nurse, now retired, who had been following the story in the newspapers. She came forward, trembling with unease. "I remember something," she confessed to the officials. 14 years ago, there was confusion in the maternity ward. 2 babies born around the same time, one family poor, the other rich. Papers were missing. I thought it was solved, but now I am not so sure." Her words shocked the room. Could it be that Alina herself was not who she thought she was? Meanwhile, Alina remained unaware of this unfolding mystery. She went about her simple routine, though everywhere she went people pointed and whispered, "That's the girl who saved the billionaire's daughter." Some praised her. Some envied her. Some doubted her story. But Alina paid little attention. She focused on caring for her grandmother, cooking rice, and collecting scraps when she could. Then one morning, a black car stopped outside her little house. Men in formal suits stepped out, followed by a woman carrying files. Her grandmother grew tense, clutching Alina's hand, but the visitors spoke gently. "Alina," one of them said, "we need to ask you a few questions about your past. We want to understand your birth records." Alina frowned in confusion. "My past? I don't know anything except what my grandmother has told me. My parents, they were gone before I could know them." The grandmother's eyes filled with tears. For years she had carried a burden she never shared, hoping it would stay buried. But now the truth was pressing at the door, and she could not stop it any longer. "Child," she whispered, her voice trembling, "there are things I never told you. I raised you as my own because I loved you. But the truth of where you came from, even I do not fully know." Alina's heart pounded. She looked at her grandmother with wide eyes, her world shaking. She wanted to ask 100 questions, but before she could, the officials explained that they wanted to do a DNA test not to hurt her, but to confirm something important. Days turned into weeks as the tests were carried out. During that time, Alina's life felt like a dream. She walked to the dump less often, as strangers now offered her food and small gifts, but she could not rest. She felt a storm in her chest. Who was she really? Why did the officials care so much about her past? Finally, the results came. The officials returned to her home, their faces serious but kind. One of them unfolded the papers and said softly, "Alina, we have discovered something remarkable. You are not just the girl who saved the billionaire's child. You are connected to them in a way no one expected. You were switched at birth. You are their long-lost daughter." Alina's legs almost gave way beneath her. Her grandmother gasped, covering her face. Tears rolled down her wrinkled cheeks as she whispered, "I always feared this day would come." The world seemed to spin around Alina. She was silent for a long time, trying to make sense of it. The life she had known, the hunger, the scraps, the humiliation suddenly felt like a dream that did not belong to her. Yet it was her life. It had shaped her. It had made her strong. When the truth was revealed publicly, the city erupted in shock. The story was no longer just about a poor girl rescuing a baby. Now it was about a hidden connection, a lost child, and destiny itself. Reporters filled the streets, writing headlines like, "Dump Girl Turns Out to Be Billionaire's Daughter" and "A Twist No One Saw Coming." The billionaire family welcomed her with open arms, but for Alina, the transition was not easy. Moving from a wooden shack to a mansion felt like walking into a different world. She was surrounded by luxury, food, and servants, yet her heart ached for her grandmother, who had raised her with love and sacrifice. Alina stood at the edge of her new golden life, torn between gratitude and confusion. She had always been poor, invisible, and mocked. Now people bowed to her. But deep down, she asked herself, who am I really? The girl of the dump, or the daughter of the rich? One thing was certain: her journey was not over. The truth had only just begun to show its face, and Alina would have to decide how to live with it. Alina's life had turned upside down in a matter of weeks. The girl who once dug through trash for scraps was now recognized everywhere as the long-lost daughter of a billionaire family. Yet inside her heart, she was still the same Alina, the girl who had learned to survive on little, the girl who loved her grandmother more than anything. When she first stepped into her new room in the mansion, she felt both wonder and discomfort. The bed was large and soft, with sheets whiter than anything she had ever owned. The wardrobe was filled with clothes she had never even dreamed of touching. Servants offered her food on silver trays, and for the first time in her life, her stomach was full every night. But even as she looked at the sparkling chandeliers and marble floors, her mind kept drifting back to her grandmother's small wooden house and the smell of rice cooking on a coal stove. The billionaire couple welcomed her warmly. Her mother often held her hands and whispered, "We missed your whole childhood, but we thank God you are back with us now." Her father introduced her to business partners, proud to call her his daughter. Yet Alina felt a quiet struggle within. She wondered, do I truly belong here? Or am I still the girl from the dump? Her grandmother visited often, and every time she arrived, Alina ran into her arms. "You are still my child," her grandmother said gently. "No mansion or wealth can change that. I raised you with love, and that love will stay with you forever." Those words gave Alina strength. Soon, the media's attention grew even louder. Reporters filled the streets with headlines like, "From Dump to Destiny" and "The Return of the Billionaire's Daughter." People who once mocked Alina now tried to befriend her. But Alina remained humble. When asked what she planned to do now that she was rich, she simply replied, "I want to use this gift to help children who feel forgotten, the way I once felt." Her promise turned into action. With her parents' support, she started a foundation. She called it the Second Chance Home. It was a place for abandoned and orphaned children, where they could find safety, food, and love. She visited often, sitting on the floor with the children, telling them stories of her own struggles. The kids adored her, not because of her wealth, but because she understood their pain. At the opening ceremony, Alina stood before the crowd in a simple dress, refusing to wear the jewels offered to her. She spoke in her clear, honest voice, "I grew up searching through trash to survive. I know what it feels like to be invisible. But I also know that one act of kindness can change everything. I was saved the day I chose to save a baby. We are all connected by the good we choose to do." The audience was silent for a moment, then they erupted into applause. Even hardened businessmen wiped their eyes, moved by the truth in her words. Her journey wasn't without challenges. Adjusting to her new life took time. She had to learn manners, languages, and even how to sit properly at formal dinners. Sometimes she made mistakes, and people laughed. But instead of feeling ashamed, she laughed along. "I am learning," she would say. "Every day is new for me." This honesty made people admire her even more. Her grandmother remained by her side until her last breath, proud to see Alina grow into a woman who carried both strength and kindness. When her grandmother passed away, Alina cried bitterly, but she promised to keep her memory alive by continuing the work of helping the poor. Years later, Alina became known not only as the billionaire's daughter but as a woman of compassion. She traveled to villages, built schools, and supported mothers who struggled to raise their children. She never forgot the dump, the hunger, or the shame. Instead, she turned those memories into fuel to bring hope to others. Whenever she was asked why she gave so much, she would smile softly and reply, "Because once, I was just a poor girl who found a baby in the trash. And that moment taught me that every life has value, no matter where it is found." Her story spread far beyond her city. It became a lesson in schools, a reminder in churches, and an inspiration for many. People began to believe more deeply in kindness, in destiny, and in the idea that one simple act could change the world. And so, the girl who once thought she was invisible grew into a woman who touched countless lives. She had lived both poverty and wealth, but what defined her most was neither. What defined her was her heart, the heart of a girl who chose compassion when it mattered most.